Hi guys, hallo Leute. Welcome back to another German session. Today's session is going to be entirely in English because I want to talk to you about how to obtain the German driver's license and the requirements you need to fulfill in order to drive in Germany with your international driver's license or your national driver's license, okay? There are different requirements depending on the country where you're from. So the legal driving age in Germany is 17. However, you need to be accompanied by an adult until you reach the age of 18, all right? They changed this law a couple of years ago because a couple of years ago you were only allowed to drive at the age of 18, but they decided to lower the age to 17. But as I said, you need to be accompanied by an adult who is at least 30 years of age and who has had his driver's license for at least 5 years. Okay, so you can start taking driving lessons at the age of 16 and a half to be able to drive the day of your birthday, okay? Now there's a theory test and a practical test that you need to take. From my experience, I can tell you that the theory test is all about memorizing questions and answers. That's what I did. It takes a couple of days or weeks. It really depends on how good you are at memorizing questions and answers. It doesn't make sense to know everything that they ask you. They ask a lot of technical questions and a lot of questions that are just unnecessary. You don't really need to know those things. Maybe 50% of what they ask you is actually relevant, and the rest you're gonna forget anyway after you pass the test. So anyway, most of the people I know have done it that way. They've just memorized all the questions and answers and they passed the test with 0 mistakes. That's what I did. And then there's a practical test where, well, you have to drive the car, of course. So you're going to be behind the wheel. Your driving instructor is going to be sitting next to you, and the driving examiner is going to be sitting in the back, and he's going to give you the instructions. And he's going to tell you where to go. In general, you need to be able to drive on the German Autobahn, all right? You need to be able to drive through the city. You need to be able to drive through calm streets, and you also need to be able to park your car. Now, this is a very important element because if you're not able to park your car, or if you fail to park your car, you're not going to pass the exam. So you definitely have to practice that, and you will in your driving lessons, that's for sure. And, well, during the test, it shouldn't take you too long to park the car, so it should take you maybe 2 or a maximum of 3 tries to actually park the car. So you shouldn't be driving back and forth the whole time. You should, park your car rather confidently. All right. Now you need to register at an official certified driving school. That's very important. So you can't just learn with your uncle or your friend. I know that this is very common in other countries. I lived in Argentina. And I know in Argentina, you can just take driving lessons with your uncle. He can teach you to drive, and then you can take the tests after driving 4 hours around the city with your uncle. So it's different in other countries, but in Germany it's rather strict. And the tests that you have to take are rather difficult. Well, it's not uncommon to fail your tests. I was good at the theory, but I sucked at the practical test. So I failed the first time because I did so many mistakes you cannot imagine. There was a crosswalk, and there was a person standing there. He was about to cross, and I just drove on. I didn't stop. So that was basically the killer. I knew I didn't pass. That was in the first 5 minutes of the test. Then I forgot to turn on the windshield wipers when it started to rain. That was pretty bad as well. And there was a very calm street with bumps, and I drove the car like 30 kilometers an hour, I think. So it should have been much slower. And so yeah, I was very nervous that day, and I was a nervous wreck. So yeah, I failed that day. And it's very expensive if you fail. You have to pay 300 or 400 euros extra if you fail, because you need to take additional driving license and take the test again, which is very expensive. So, but anyway, don't feel bad if you don't pass the first time, because it happens to a lot of people. Now, if you already have your driver's license, you can drive in Germany for a maximum of 6 months. And after that, you need to either extend your driving license or you need to obtain the German driver's license. And that depends on which country you're from. If you're from an EU country or EEA country, you can usually extend your driver's license. However, if you are from a country outside of the EU, you have to obtain the German driver's license. So that means taking either the practical or the theoretical exam, or even both. But then again, there are different agreements between countries, and they vary. So I would, do some more research on the internet regarding the country you're from, because there might be a special rule or special regulation which makes it easier for you. But in general, those are the basic rules, okay? Now, for those of you who are worried because you don't speak the German language fluently, you don't need to be worried, because nowadays you can even take the theoretical test in other languages. I think there are a couple of languages available, 8, 9 languages. Definitely English is available, so you can take the theory test in English. And the driving school can give you a CD, which you need to purchase for around 30 euros, and the CD contains all the questions in your native language. If it's a language that's available. So yeah, and then, well, for the practical test, you would probably need to learn some vocabulary, some German vocabulary related to driving. You need to understand the instructions that your driving examiner is giving you. He might be able to speak English, but I wouldn't count on that. Or I would ask the driving school in advance if the driving examiner can speak English. If not, it probably makes sense to learn some vocabulary in German. So yeah, I would advise you to learn that, to study those. I'm going to make another video on those terms so that, I can help you practice for the practical examination. All right, I hope I gave you the most important information. Thank you for joining me once again, and I will see you next time. Tschüss!